Hello and welcome to the Growing Green podcast. Your host, Jeremiah Jennings, is the owner of Growing Green Landscapes in Birmingham, Alabama, and has a passion for growing the entrepreneurship community for those who are young in business. Being a business owner isn't easy, especially in the early years, and that's why in this show we dive into a wide range of topics covering all the challenges small business owners deal with. Even if your company is generating $1 million or more, the stories from our great guest and Jeremiah's own firsthand experiences will propel your business forward. And now, here's your host, Jeremiah Jennings.
Amazing. Well, thanks for having me, Jeremiah. Excited to be here, guys. Hope you had an awesome morning. I think events like this are crucial for our industry and certainly helpful. I think this time of year, it's also a great time to start doing some stuff like this, even being down at the conference that we're at right now. I've been coming for about 20 years. It's just one of those things between the award show, the interaction, seeing all your vendors, a lot of people that you don't get to see too frequently, and everybody's motivated. They're pumped to get the year going. Lots of great conversation last night, a few pints with some friends, and it's a great 3 days, but happy to jump off and do this. When Jeremiah had reached out, he asked me to talk about partnerships. And partnerships are, one of the crucial elements in my business. We are a design build company. I'm involved with multiple businesses, but all vertical to our design build company. We've been in business 17 years. We annually do 10 to 15 million and not 10 to 15, 10 to 11. We're on our way to 15 million in sales. We run at a high net. We run lean. We run mean. It's taken us some time to get there. But it's a lot of fun. And I think, when businesses start chugging along well and build good partnerships and have the types of conversations available to them because they have good partnerships, it's really where things will start to take off for any business. I'm going to share my screen here. This is a presentation that I've tweaked a little bit. Let me just find it here. There we go. Did this down in Boston at one of the LMN Mastermind events. Was very good, well received. We had a great time. Let me just see if I can get this to move. There we go. So I'm gonna start out. This is like a 15-20 minute chat, guys. Jump in at any time if you've got questions, or to interrupt is fine. But the dictionary definition is a partnership is a business or organizational relationship where two or more individuals, groups, or entities agree to work together towards a common goal. So, that really gives you the essence of what a partnership means. I think we all know what a partnership means, but it really is about benefiting both parties. And I think, as we get through this, you're going to see not only the benefits, but it does take effort, obviously, like anything in business. The more effort we put in, the more we tend to get out. But who do we want to partner with? We want partners who are like-minded, share the same values, have similar goals, and bring value to both sides. So I think, again, that's kind of an obvious couple of statements, but being intentional and really thinking about why you're trying to partner with somebody and how you can help them and they can help you will help you kind of fine tune who you're going after and selecting. I've always liked this line at the bottom: people want to do business with people they like. I think a lot of times people can get too selly. They can try too hard to push a relationship, or we've all had salespeople reach out to us that just kind of push a little too hard. That's not my strategy. I've never liked that strategy. I feel like if you can try and create value for somebody else and stay in their face, so to speak, whether it's on socials or events or wherever you might be, trying to just be present, show them what you're all about is really, really the best strategy. In business, we have a lot of different partnerships. Family I've got here is number one. I think one of the things as business owners and entrepreneurs that are trying to grow a business, especially If we're at the stage where we have a young family or, even older kids, but the hecticness of that life, and it really is a partnership, whether, with your partner, your spouse, your kids, trying to really focus on what you're bringing to the table for them is your number one goal. Vendors, same sort of idea, but with vendors, it's important to have a great partnership. I know the market in the US and in Canada for that matter was a little weaker last year than it had been. Certainly during COVID, things were crazy. But being able to have relationships with your vendors where you can have the hard conversations about, one of the things I've been talking to a lot of people about the past few months is guys are having a lot harder time closing now than they have in the past, 2 years, 3 years. Again, there was a lot more demand, but I think it really, as owners, forced us to really look at what else do we do to prove that we're different. And often it's a price point issue. Often we need to figure out a way to either make our numbers work or do a really good job at convincing them why we're better. And I think, there's a lot of ways to do that, but the partnerships with vendors are important because you can, when you have a customer that is pressing on a project and you're very close to getting a deal, but they want 5% or they want something from you, being able to reach out to your vendor, ask for a break on this certain project, ask them maybe for some free delivery, ask them for some longer terms. When you have a strong relationship, you have those opportunities, and it's the same for your equipment and vehicle providers as well. When you've got a strong relationship with them, it's a lot easier to negotiate. It's a lot easier to have open conversations about what's going to best suit. We are heavy with Bobcat. We have a lot of Bobcat equipment. We did a 12 machine flip with them last year, where we traded in a bunch of new equipment, got 12 new pieces. But we've been dealing with them for 16 years now. And I don't deal with them because they're necessarily a better, I shouldn't say they're not a bad piece of equipment, but like vehicles, they all have their thing, right? Like whether you're a Chevy guy, Ford guy, Dodge guy, to me, it's more about service, and Bobcat has always serviced us really well. So being able to have an open conversation about terms, like we were able to negotiate a lower interest rate. We were able to negotiate a 4-hour downtime. So if we're down for more than 4 hours, they're bringing us another machine. We got our annual service included. So there was a lot of things like that likely saved us over a 5-year term, 25, 35,000 and no downtime. So to have a guarantee of no downtime is huge. Partnerships with customers, I mean, that one's pretty self-explanatory. You've got to work hard at building those relationships, and you want to make sure those relationships are strong when you finish their project or when you're doing their maintenance. You want to be first on their mind when they're at the next dinner party and somebody's asking about, hey, who does your property or who did your work? You want to make sure that that's still strong. And there's lots of different ways that we'll get into shortly about how to maintain those relationships. Subtrades, again, another great one. If you our company, we're heavy with subtrades. We do a lot of masonry work that we sub in. We do a lot of outdoor kitchens, pools. So being able to have a conversation with a subtrade when we're really fighting hard to get a project and we know we're tight, to be able to look back to them and say, hey, I hate to ask, but it'd be great if you could get us 5% here. Or can we cut down the timeline or speed up there's a lot of different things that a subtrade can do to help you out a little bit. The bank, right? We all know what that's like. We all need to have a great partnership with our bank. And specifically the guy who can pull the triggers for us. Those relationships take time to build, but they're as simple as a couple lunches a year, a golf game, a bottle of wine, whatever it might be. Whatever works for them. But having a strong relationship with the bank makes it so much more friendly when you need to go in there, when you're in that spot, or you get an opportunity. You got an opportunity that something comes up that you don't want to miss out on, whether it's a land deal, a real estate deal, a new piece of equipment, whatever it might be. Having a strong relationship with the bank and having a way to try and structure something that'll work for both sides is crucial. Business coach, again, another type of a partnership. This one I think is a little more one-sided, because they're going to try and bring value to you and try and help you save time and money and get to where you want to be faster. But that type of partnership is very important. Companies, our team, even professionals like your lawyer, your accountant, these are all super partnerships to have. Our team partnership should actually be probably right below family, number two. Having a strong partnership with your team is crucial. We all know this. We all know it, but we all need to work at it. It's not something that just happens. We're going to talk about culture a little bit when this is done, but having a great partnership with your team is super important. Partnerships, some of you guys may have partners in your business. Obviously important to keep those strong. But yeah, I mean, these are all real estate, depending on how you get your work, having a partnership with realtors is crucial. If you're the type of business that does maintenance, and you can throw some add-ins when they're selling a project and say, hey, I'll come in and I'll tidy that property up for you so it looks good for your open house, but I'd love it if you push this to the buyer, or we'd like to keep this project, or this property in our portfolio, even though it's selling. Great way to create new relationships with realtors. The realtors actually are one of our biggest partnerships in Muskoka, where we do a lot of our work. And as small as Muskoka is, there's a lot of projects that happen. And I'm sure when you start looking at where you are logistically, if you kind of branch your area out a little bit and you think about the reach that realtors have, especially between offices, there's a lot of sharing that goes on amongst realtors as well. So coming up with creative ideas to create connections with them, definitely in the maintenance end of things, but certainly in any enhancement type work, if you do irrigation, lighting, audio, knowing that you have those services available will really pay dividends for you in the future. Who is your right fit partner? So this starts to get like a little bit more company specific. This could be a general contractor, an architect, a landscape architect, designer, developer, township or city office, property manager, There's a long list. But each one of those types of partnerships are crucial. If you are, I've got a guy that I work with often who only does high-end planting. That he just does softscape. He does a lot of ornamental trees and stuff like that, but he runs like a $3 million business, and all he does is plant. He doesn't lay any stone. He doesn't put any pavers in. He doesn't do any maintenance, no lighting, nothing, just planting. And all of his relationships are with landscape architects. And the landscape architects absolutely love him because they know that he's going to bring the highest quality product every time. They're a right fit for their type of projects. So keeping, like I often have said to him, why don't you have a designer? And, for obvious reasons, he gets most of his work funnel is from other landscape architects and designers. So knowing who your partner should be and how it's going to benefit both of you, big time priority. Township or city office, like that's more if you're into commercial stuff, you want to make sure you're not only, and it doesn't always have to be like the owner of the company. When you're working with a town office, you might want to work with like the area manager or the service department. It doesn't really matter where you make that connection as long as you make it, because often township groups are quite tight, as are commercial property managers. If you're doing like estate maintenance, you're looking for a different partnership than if you do subdivision residential. So really focused on who is the right fit. The end user, this is more just to get you thinking about where do they live, what do they do, what's their property like, what do they currently have, and then starting to really think about the areas, because as we all know, when it comes to maintenance, logistics are the biggest part, right? The tighter you can make that loop, the more profitable everything is. But in this process of creating partnerships, this is kind of the next step, like really trying to narrow down who is the right fit to spend my time and money working to try and create new partnerships with. And And then we kind of move into how to connect. Socials, obviously, the most easy, the best reach. I feel like that is one of our biggest assets these days. We used to do a lot of other advertising, magazines, radio, that type of stuff. Now we really just focus on socials, trying to bring as much value we can, not only for customer attraction, but for team attraction, for sharing, success stories about the team. But I'm not really here to talk about socials. But again, I think that's one of the biggest ways to connect. It's also one of the biggest ways to learn about your potential partners. Where do they hang out? What events do they like to go to? You can tell a lot by somebody's socials if they're going to the same golf course, weekly, if they go to the same charity event every year. It's usually not just one. Do you know anyone that knows them? Like that's another kind of low-hanging fruit. If you can identify who that right fit partner is to help your business grow, or maybe it's not even to grow, maybe it's a vendor you're trying to make a relationship with. But if you can find somebody who knows them that you already have a relationship with, obviously an easy in. If they have kids, like maybe they're on the same swim team, ball team, football team, drama club, whatever, you can make a connection. They post about their events. You can do donations. You can, get your name circulating in the places that they want to be or like to be. And this can be as simple as, if you know that they buy their, no, what's a good one? If you know there's an area that they often go or that they frequent on a weekly basis, or that their kids' team does, or their wife's event does, whatever it might be, doing a charitable donation, doing a silent auction item, just donating so that you get your name in the program, whatever it might be. A lot of these things can be pretty economical. Maybe it's a food drive, anything like that just gets your company's name or you in front of them, as a touch point is the key. Whole sponsorships are a great way. Like it really depends on your business and who you're trying to attract, but anything like that you can just get in front of them, and go into it with the mindset of, how can I help them? I think one of the things we do sometimes as business owners is we do, and it's easy to do. I mean, it's kind of a human trait. We get focused in on how is it helping us? What are we doing to help ourselves? How is it going to help my business? But I tell you, if you go into, and this is for a lot of things, goes back to culture and connecting with your team and all that too. But the more you focus on what value you're bringing to them or how you can help them, when that energy goes into something like that and that sort of mindset, you'll find you get a much better result. You'll get a much, much better result. So next we kind of get into making direct contact. This could be via email, Instagram, tell them how much you admire something they do, be honest. And I think this is another thing to think about when using social media as a tool, or emailing somebody, or cold calls, whatever it might be. Just be honest about it. Like people, like I said earlier, want to do business with people they like. And I think the more honest you are about what your intent is, and maybe not even if your intent is at the beginning, like often it's time to try and make a bit of a connection and then kind of bring in what your hope is or what your goals are. Ask for a lunch or a breakfast, a coffee, a golf game, come up with a strategic plan. Like this is the important part, guys. We talk a lot about when we start thinking about goal setting and budgeting, we always have some sort of metric sheet that we use to track against. It's the same for partnerships. I've got a company that we launched last year called Vast Design. It's a landscape architecture company. We've built out this really good program, that we got online, that we do a touch point with our people we're trying to make partnerships with or connect with every 3 weeks. So I may go, like there's different cycles that we use depending on what type of partnership it is. But, there'll be an Instagram DM. Maybe it's, just saying, hey, we really like what you did here. This is super cool. It could be having some donuts dropped off from their favorite bakery or from just a really great bakery in your area. We've had pizzas delivered on Fridays. We've had a styrofoam cooler filled with Bud Light and ice on a Friday afternoon. If you know that's something that's going to go somewhere with them, put your brand right on top of it. Put your brand on the donut box. Put your brand on the pizza box. It's pretty economical to get some stuff that'll handle the heat and looks good with your branding on it. Those types of things. We've sent charcuterie boards. And this doesn't always have to be at the holidays. Like, again, try and create something where you're having some sort of touch point every 3 weeks and track it. Because the other thing it'll do, we have over 100 people on our list that we're working to make partnerships with. A little bit different because that company is not logistically challenged. So we're trying to make partnerships all around North America. But logistically, we're also doing that by touch, not by, face to face. Some of them, obviously, once we make a connection, we're trying to do face to face. But just to get that initial call, it's a great way to do it. Get creative with it, have fun with it, but track it, because what you'll find is you'll find certain things work for certain people, and then it just gives you a little bit more information, like anything else. When you're reviewing your job at the end of the month, there's obviously or the end of the year, there's usually a pattern, like, hey, we're consistently losing on mulch installation, or we're consistently losing on this. You'll find the same thing with the metrics for your partnerships. Be yourself. Don't ask for work unless it comes up. Talk to them about them. Talk about your family, your dog, your hobbies, what makes you passionate about your business, what your goals are in your business is a big one. And again, it doesn't always have to be with the owner. It could be if you're a landscape construction company and you're trying to make a connection with a new builder, maybe you work on one of the site supers or project managers first. If the owner is tough to get a hold of or doesn't respond, maybe you reach out to somebody else on the team and try and make a connection there. Put effort and thought into your email, what it's saying, what it's telling them. Take a different approach. I used this story last time too. I get emails, I wouldn't say once a week, but at least 2 or 3 a month from a company that's either moved to the area or is trying to do work in the area. And it'll be an email that basically says, hey, we're new to the area. We'd love to do some work together. Here's our time material sheet with all our cost per hour. Honestly, that's as far as I get with it. But if I get an email from somebody that says, hey, we're new to the area, love what you guys are doing, would love it if you had a half hour to show us around one of your sites one day. And then we go and we meet and we have a conversation. We talk about what we're doing, what they can do. I'm probably asking them for their hourly sheet. So just because you send out 25 emails, if it's not the right email, don't expect, great success with it. This piece at the bottom, this is so true. Like, don't forget, you can't build great partnerships doing shit work, right? You got to be able to back it up. And another story I love to use is, often as business owners, we have an idea of where we want to get to, and what types of projects we want to do. And generally, those projects are bigger than what we're currently doing, or they're a different type of work than we're currently doing, or at a different level from the type of work we're doing. One of the things you really want to make sure of is that when you do get that opportunity, because you're probably only going to get it once, be careful what you wish for. Because if you're not prepared, or your company doesn't have, the right communication, the right funding, the right skill set, the right amount of people to get it done in time, like, make sure when you're making these partnerships, you're doing it with ones that are just that next step up. It doesn't have to be where you want to be in 10-year job, but where you want to be next year job is a great strategy. So just be careful of that. And I think, again, everybody knows that you need to perform to have success to get the next job. So just make sure you're within your comfort zone with work. Make sure your partnership works for you. Once it's built, it works both ways. Be sure it works both ways. Make sure you continue to bring value. This is something, as an example, I worked on hard this year. I had a goal this past year, 24. I wanted to do 30 lunches, and I wanted them to be with current partners. I got to 18, and I think I got 3 or 4 golf games in. But I can't tell you how many times I reached out to somebody we already do a lot of work with, especially some of our builder companies, and we just went and had lunch. We didn't talk about, I mean, might have been some small talk about work, like, yeah, how you guys doing? Are you busy? That sort of thing. But it was more just about reconnecting and, how's the family doing? What are you up to this summer? Where are you going? I would say like 7 out of 10 of those meetings, I had a call from one of their project managers or somebody the week after, just because it was fresh in their mind. And I wasn't going there and saying, hey, you got anything in September? I really need a project to start in September because we're a little slow. So maintaining your partnerships is just as important as creating new ones. And I think often we take it for granted, especially our vendors. It's easy. We've got a lot of vendors that we've been doing business with for more than 15 years. And we get a lot of people that are always, trying to come in, but it's kind of like the Bobcat analogy. Their product or their service or their pricing might be the same. It might even be a little bit better. And don't get me wrong, we do, when we rebudget, we're making sure we track all the numbers and revisit the best pricing. But when you have a good partnership, some of that stuff it just goes to the wayside. You want to use that person because you know what you're getting. They're going to deliver when they say. Your subtrade's going to perform when they say. So yeah, just making sure you continue to maintain it is big. Same thing too, like maybe set a goal for maintaining your current relationships. And it doesn't have to be fancy stuff. It could be a beer at the end of the day. It could be a coffee one morning in the yard or at their yard. Could be a phone call, could be a text message. Like one of the things, I've got a calendar event on my phone every day at 8 a.m. That's like one good thing. It's just a reminder for me, because at that time of day, I'm usually in my office by then working. And I'll just have a quick thought on somebody that's done something good for me in the past week or whatever, or the past couple of days, or somebody I want to thank, or somebody at work maybe that's doing a good job. And sometimes it's to one of our vendors or to one of our partners, just to say, hey, thanks so much for the delivery of the pool last week. Guys did an amazing job. Really appreciate it. That stuff goes a long way. And I think as business owners, we can often forget to do that, right? We all get busy. We're finishing stuff and we're already thinking, well, while we're finishing it, we're thinking about where we're going next. So make sure you make a little time. It's kind of like the tracking sheet for creating the new partners and the touch points. You can do the same thing for maintenance, or for maintaining those customers. And again, yeah, just kind of look what creates value for both of you. They can differ from company to company, your partnerships. If I'm in the residential lawn care business, I'm going to want to try and make relationships with people who are building subdivisions. Or I'm going to, want to do a density study on the city or the town that I live in, and try and really focus in and, really try and cater to that certain community so I can cut down all my waste. There's lots of different ways to make it different. But it's all kind of the same strategy. If you are a pool installer, you're obviously looking for landscape contractors or builders that do a lot of pool installs, do their projects. They're landscape architects that always have pools in their projects. So yeah, just make sure that you've got the right ones. Down here, this was more just a breakdown that I wanted to use to show you how partnerships can also be used to help your business. We put this together. This is a breakdown from last year for us. This was something we were using in the office. We've got a growth strategy over the next 5 years. Last year, we did 47 projects with an average of 227K. That's a little bit askew because probably 17 or 20 of those projects were for a previous customer where we went in and added a new stone patio, or, we didn't actually do 47 big projects last year. So our average is probably a bit higher too, but it gives us something to work off of. So, we need to increase our revenue by $1 million a year to get to 15. this is again a bit hypothetical, but this is how I use this type of tool. So now I know, okay, well, to do an additional million in sales, we either need 5 new jobs or a partner that could bring us 5 new jobs, or maybe it's 2 partners that bring 2 and 3 of that $200,000 type project. Or I could just try and make a partnership with somebody that I know does $1 million jobs, but they only do 2 or 3 a year, right? So, and we have in our area, in a lot of areas, and everywhere in the U.S., the North America, there's these type of jobs in certain areas. So then you start to think about, okay, well, who is the right partner to help me do this? You know, is it better for me to get one more big job that is going to suck up a crew for 5 months, 6 months? Or do I want to find 5 $200,000 jobs where likely they're going to be a landscape renovation? There's going to be nobody else on site. The customer is likely willing to wait so we can make it fit our schedule. We know we're going to be in and out in 4 weeks, 5 weeks tops. You know, that sort of strategizing about what is best for us and what partnership is best for us is just a great way to help you use that information and build partnerships with a really intentional plan, not just emailing or deliveries or Instagram focused on a bunch of random people. Really dial it in so that it's specific for you. And that is kind of the end of the partnership portion, guys. Anybody got any questions? All good?
I think they put some in the chat. There's one in the chat.
What do you got?
Will said, best way to reach a potential partner, email, phone call, or in person.
Yeah, I think some of that's going to depend on the person. I think email is a great way to start. I think, you know, for most people, most other business owners, they're going to obviously be using their email frequently. They're going to see it. What I would suggest against is if you don't get a response in a day or two, don't email again. Come up now with something else. Maybe it's a DM. Maybe it's a delivery at the office. Maybe it's a phone call. You know, cold calls are still good. Like, I think one of the things that COVID taught us all is that we still need to be salespeople at some level. And I think a lot of guys took it for granted during COVID because, as we all know, at that time, if you had people and you had time, you had the work. Where now, you know, you're fighting against multiple people pricing. We all know that there's a lot of people out there doing work for less. But as an industry, we need to really make sure that we're focused more on being able to explain our price, being able to warranty it, being able to justify why it's more, like the processes that we use to make it a better job. This is how we do our compaction. This is why we do it that way. Selling a customer on that kind of stuff is the best. And the ultimate tool, guys, and the thing that works the best for us at Muskoka Landscapers is having old customers that we can go to anytime with new customers. Right? If you're somebody that builds 50 or 100, $150,000 backyards, being able to take a customer to an inventory of 4 or 5 projects that's has the same sort of programming that they're after, or the same sort of budget, and walk them through how you did it, why you did it that way, why they selected that stone. Really great if the other customer's there and has good things to say. But figuring out ways to set yourself apart is the key to closing jobs now. We've all got to get better at it. We've all got to come up with unique methods. You know, yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it, but I think you just got to be creative, and it, depending on the type of work you do and the business that you have, there's many different ways. I was talking to a guy a few weeks ago at a small conference, and he was a beauty of a guy. He's got a very big business, like a $20 million a year business, and he still sends pizzas with one piece out of it to people he's trying to connect with, and says, hey, just reaching out again, just making sure, you know, we're still the missing piece, you know. And that he has got so many projects from that, or finally got a call from that, email, call, DM, all that stuff, and then sends a pizza and gets a job. So you got to be creative. You got to really be able to show why you're better.
There's two questions in here in the chat. I'll read them in just a second. When did you, or how did you go about coming up with who your best partner was? Aside from the typical, like, yeah, you're putting in big designs, then you want to get around rich people, right? Like take something that simple off the table. How did you figure out who your best partner was?
I think honestly, I think our first couple of years it was, take what we got. We were doing all types of different work, different size projects. We were only 5 people our first year and 6 or 7 the second. But I mean, for one, I didn't have the same strategy. I didn't know then. I mean, I was like a lot of guys who start a business. I came from the field. I knew how to do the work well. I knew how to manage people, but I knew nothing about running a business or selling. So a lot of what I was able to do was through people I knew, or people I had worked with in the past. So yeah, I think being like knowing what I know now, if I would have narrowed down my focus to the type of work I wanted to do and made sure we were working on projects that were building up towards the type of projects we do now, I easily could have been doing that in 4 or 5 years rather than in 10 years. So I think being able to, look ahead at where you want to go and then backing it up to where you are now, what your capabilities are now, your crew size, your capabilities, your availability, and then strategizing about, okay, well, we're getting pretty good at doing driveway pavers. Let's start adding in some backyards and some entrance work, maybe some pool work. Let's start talking to pool guys. Let's start making relationships with pool companies that, a lot of their projects are going to have pavers. And, for residential projects, most often the pool guy gets called before the landscaper.
Yeah.
Right. So making relationships with those guys and being able to offer something to them, whether it's, the quality of the work or the price point or, anything you can do to kind of build that relationship. But again, to answer the question, I think it's really just dial in where you're trying to get to and then pick the partners that are going to get you there.
Joey said, how do you go about getting rejected from prospective strategic partners, or if they already have someone in your industry? This is different than just like a normal lead or a client.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a good question. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to break. At the conference today, I had a guy come up to me who basically came running down one of the aisles with a business card, who's a seed salesman. And he's like, hey, I think his name was Mark. He's like, I've reached out a bunch of times. We had a conversation one day, just a few years ago. We'd still love to do something with you. And I said, Mark, like we've been dealing with the same guy for 17 years. They treat us great. We honestly don't buy that much seed anymore. We don't do hydro seeding anymore. So I hooked him up with the guy that bought the hydro seed business from us. But that persistence, when I left, I was actually with one of my guys when it happened. And I said, we should probably think about asking that guy. So I think it's hard when you're like, that guy's been rejected multiple times by us, and I'm sure by many other customers. And I'm sure it happens to all kinds of vendors and landscapers that are pushing for the right type of work. We've got here's a good story. We've got a contractor here that does amazing work. They're without a doubt the best known company in our area for construction. We tried for many years, like literally 10 years, to get projects with them. They've been very loyal to a company that they've always worked with, and they've grown a lot. And I would see them at different events. I had lunch with the owner a few times. I ran into him on vacation a couple of times. We have a similar friend group, but always had the understanding, like when we would see each other, we'd often say, oh, one day we'll do something together. And then about 3 years ago, they got so busy that the other company couldn't keep up. And they reached out, and we did a $800,000 project for them. A month later, we got $1 million project with them. to the point that this year, I think we have 3 large projects with them. So I would say like rejection is a delay. It's up to you whether it's over for you or you're going to keep pushing. And it doesn't have to be an aggressive push. It's okay. Like, you got to admire people that have good relationships with their trades or their vendors, or they're loyal to a certain mason or, a certain equipment provider. I think it's all important. So don't look at it as rejection. I think just look at it as a delay, and you've got to kind of stick to your strategy of trying to convince them at some point as to why you're better or why they should give you a shot.
Thanks for tuning in to the Growing Green podcast. It is an honor to have you listening, and we hope you receive valuable advice to help take your business to the next level. Don't forget to follow the podcast so you'll be notified when our next episode drops.